Hello, darling. I was thinking some stuff, and it seemed worth sharing. I was thinking about things that get left unfinished. The history of the arts is littered with things never completed by their creators. Unfinished symphonies or manuscripts or sculptures. Most of these unfinished things never even come to public notice. Sometimes the family or estate of a writer might get someone else to complete something and publish it posthumously, but that is definitely the rare exception. Indeed, I've read of several authors who left strict instructions to their families that anything unfinished should be burned after their death. They were very keen that the public only see stuff that they had deemed as fit to be seen. Of course, the story is often different when the art in question has been financed by third parties. If a director dies halfway through making a movie, then they normally get replaced by a new director with unseemly haste. The death of an architect does not normally lead to an unfinished building. The people who put up the cash for these things want a return on their investment. And that means they want people to pay for the finished thing. People don't generally pay for a thing that's only half done. One of the things that artists and creators struggle with sometimes, especially early on, is how to tell when a particular piece is finished. What does finished look like? It is sometimes entirely subjective. You'll maybe know it when you see it. Sometimes certain media might have pre-agreed constraints. A traditional symphony has 4 movements. If it only has 2, then it is an unfinished symphony. If your limerick only has 3 lines, then you ain't done yet. Once you have 5 lines, with the correct rhythm and length and rhyme scheme, then you do have a well-structured limerick. After that, whether it's finished is up to you. It's finished when you're finished with it. Writers come across no end of advice on how to best structure a story. Much of that different advice is contradictory, but we don't need to agree on the rules of story structure to accept that bad structure is a thing that can exist. Reading just the first half of a story, for example, can leave us feeling less than satisfied. A story can feel unfinished. TV shows tend to be commissioned season by season. Each episode normally does have its own narrative arc, but it's common these days to also have some plot lines that run right through the season. Certain shows, like Game of Thrones, for example, are very definitely telling a story that is not fully resolved until the very end of the last season. Fans may not have loved Season 7, but they'd have felt far more cheated if HBO had cancelled the show after Season 3 or Season 4. Shows getting cancelled is often a cause for anguish in fandom spaces online. Sometimes that is just the grief that people feel knowing that they will never get more stories with their favourite characters. But there is a special circle of hell reserved for networks that cancel a show on a cliffhanger ending. A half-finished story always feels a little like a crime against the viewers. I have read stuff online from people who prefer not to engage at all with unfinished media. They want to know that fans found the ending satisfying before they're even willing to crack open the beginning. I suppose I can understand that position, although it does feel quite alien to me. I've started reading or watching so many things over the years that never got an ending that I'm just kind of used to that by now. I do understand the value of a good ending, but I'm also very happy to enjoy a good middle. One of the shows I watched recently was the first season of Treadstone. the TV show that spun out of the Jason Bourne movies. I knew when I started watching it that it got cancelled after one season. I knew that some of the long-term plot lines they were setting up would never be resolved. I made a conscious decision to watch it anyway, and I was pleased that I did. It was an interesting series, structurally, owing as big a debt to shows like Sense8 as it did to any of the Bourne movies. I do not regret my choices. Stories make us think, and stories make us feel. Sometimes what we are thinking and feeling is intended by the creators. It's a deliberate act of manipulation. They made a movie designed to make people feel a particular set of feelings, or think a particular set of thinkings. Other times, what we are thinking or feeling was not intended by the creators at all. We read a story and it bounces around in our head, ricocheting off other things that we've read or off our own life experience. And feelings fall out that are certainly coming more from us than from the author of the story. When I say that a poorly structured story can leave us feeling unsatisfied, I'm also aware that sometimes the creators want us to feel unsatisfied with things. Some stories are supposed to make us angry or upset or unsettled or confused. That is their artistic intention. I've read more than one story that just ends mid-sentence, but done with enough context that the reader gets the point of that, sees that one of the themes of the work is, for example, the idea of lives being cut short unexpectedly. Real life is not like the picture shows. It does not always lend itself to a satisfying shape. Very few real human lives play out in the classic 3-act structure so beloved of Hollywood screenwriters. I don't think, though, that the real reason for this is that they get unexpectedly cut short. I don't think it's mortality that makes the shape of a real human life feel unsatisfying. I think the real reason is that an actual human life is simply too big and too complicated for us to see the shape of it the way we see the shape of a story. We do tell stories about our own lives, of course, lots and lots of them, but none of them could ever be the whole story. And when our lives are finished, we know that we will leave dangling plot threads, that however hard we try, we will leave some things behind unfinished. And that's okay, because, after all, what's the alternative? After I'm gone, I'd love people to say that I was still active, still trying new things, still starting things, right up to the end. I think that would make me very happy. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about, and it felt worth sharing. See you soon.